Have you ever noticed how some people seem to leak energy when they're in a crowd, while others seem to find it only when the door is closed and the world is quiet? We often look at someone sitting alone and instinctively try to categorize it as a deficiency. We assume they're lonely, bored, or simply waiting for a reason to return to the social world. But from a psychological perspective, the experience is often the opposite. For many, being alone is where they finally feel full. Today we're analyzing the mechanisms behind the pro-solitude mind. We're exploring the reasons why, for some, the quiet isn't a void. It's the primary environment where internal processing finally becomes clear. To understand this experience, we must distinguish between two different psychological states: loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a state of deficiency, a painful hunger that occurs when there is a gap between the social connection one has and the connection one desires. Solitude, however, is a state of sufficiency. It is an intentional shift in focus. For the person who thrives in solitude, being alone is a choice to engage with their own internal landscape. In this state, the mind isn't searching for external input. It is busy organizing, reflecting, and analyzing the input it already has. Why does social interaction feel like a leak for some, but a charge for others? It often traces back to a biological baseline known as cortical arousal. The theory suggests that some individuals have a naturally high-volume brain. Because their internal baseline of activity is already high, they are more sensitive to the noise, movement, and complexity of a crowd. For these individuals, a social gathering isn't just fun, it is a state of sensory overload. Solitude, then, acts as a regulatory tool. It allows the individual to turn down the external volume so their internal signal can be processed without interference. The capacity to be alone is also linked to early developmental foundations. According to attachment theory, those who grew up with a secure base develop an internal sense of safety. Because they feel fundamentally secure, they don't require a constant social mirror to validate their existence or their worth. They can explore the quiet because they are anchored by a stable self-concept. They aren't running away from others. They are operating from a psychological foundation that allows them to function independently of the group's gaze. There is a significant cognitive cost to being with others, a process called self-monitoring. When we are in a social space, a portion of our brain is constantly scanning for social cues, managing facial expressions, and adjusting behavior to fit the group. When an individual enters solitude, this monitoring mechanism goes offline. This sudden surplus of mental energy is what leads to the flow state. Without the tax of social performance, the brain can redirect its full power toward creative problem-solving and deep thought. This is why solitude is often the primary workspace for complex innovation. Constant social interaction can lead to a blending effect, where an individual's thoughts and preferences start to mirror the group. This is social contagion. Solitude provides the prism through which these influences are filtered. Psychologists call this self-concept clarity. By removing the pressure of peer expectations, the individual is able to observe their own thoughts with higher resolution. They aren't seeking to be different. They are simply observing what remains when the noise of the world is stripped away. Ultimately, the preference for being alone is not a rejection of society, but a specific way of processing the human experience. Solitude is a cognitive sanctuary, a state where the mind shifts from external observation to internal integration. Understanding these mechanisms reveals that the quiet mind isn't empty. It is simply operating on a different frequency, one where the most important conversations happen in the silence between the noise of the world.